What's up, YouTube? We're going to talk essential metal today. Rammstein's third record, Mutter. So, sincerest apologies in advance for the fucking pronunciations in this video. The hilariously ironic part of this, though, is that not only do I come from a German family on one half, but I took 3 fucking years of German in high school and retained fucking nothing. So for all those of you who are super liberal, there's your need for public education reform. So I don't really feel like Rammstein need too much of an introduction. I'm sure even the most casual of rock and metal fans watching this have at least some awareness of these German metal titans and their numerous instantly recognizable hit singles, and of course their ridiculous and bombastic live shows complete with pyrotechnics and penis cannons. And I was lucky enough to be there at Madison Square Garden in 2010 for their first show on US soil in 10 years, and it was fucking insane. I literally sleep with the fucking poster above my bed. Now, none of Rammstein's records in their catalog are radically different stylistically from the others, but Mutter specifically is what I like to call industrial pop metal. And I mean that in a good way. Rammstein's music is clearly driven by an industrial sound with lots of militant rhythms and guitars and keyboards kind of vying for the spotlight, as opposed to other styles of metal where guitars really are up front all the time. It's clearly driven by an industrial sound in that sense, but these songs are just fucking built for arenas. Not only the giant riffs, but the vocal refrains. They may be in German, but the language makes absolutely zero difference because these songs are just massive. By the way, Rammstein do have some pretty interesting tracks lyrically if you do choose to dive in. Their most famous song, Du hast, of course, is this clever play on marriage vows where Du hast mich can both mean you hate me and you have me. And that's pretty cool. And then there's the song Haifisch off their last record, Liebe ist für alle da, which actually takes an old German nursery rhyme and kind of flips it on its head. Which, hey, there's something I learned in German class. For some reason we were taught that nursery rhyme, and I was like, wait a second, that's a Rammstein song. And then we spent the last 20 minutes of the class listening to the Rammstein version of it. So the point being, though, the point I made still stands, that lyrics don't really matter because these songs are just so anthemic. So with Mutter specifically, this album is kind of a sleeper because I'm not sure everyone realizes how much of the band's quintessential material and how many of their live staples are on this record. It's freaking ridiculous. This LP is 11 tracks long, and tracks 1 through 6 are all bona fide smashes. Granted, this record does get acclaim. You're not going to read a bad review out there about it, but I feel like it's not exalted in the way that it deserves. Just take a listen to any of these first 6 songs. Right off the bat, the record kicks off with Mein Herz brennt, My Heart's Burning, I believe is the translation. This one builds with this dramatic string intro into this stomping main groove where the guitars are performed with this like lumbering caveman-like chug, and it's actually the strings on top of it that are responsible for delivering you the melody. I love the slow and reserved tempo of this song. As Pantera taught us in a lot of their 90s output, sometimes cutting the tempo down doubles the impact and doubles the heaviness, and that's definitely the case here. This is like the ultimate headbanger. For me, though, the high point of the whole track is when that cinematic intro reappears as a bridge section, and this sexy wah pedal tinged guitar kind of slides in and brings this extra dose of melancholy as it builds into the final chorus. That's the thing about Rammstein. Even though their calling card is like this robotic sounding aggression, they can really make you feel in the midst of everything. And this section, when that guitar re-enters, does that for me. Sonne, the third track and one of their biggest hits ever, has another heavy groove that just makes me lose my fucking mind. This track, though, is a great showcase for Till Lindemann's marvelous bellowing baritone. People undermine the accessibility of his voice. He's not gritty or harsh. His delivery is so smooth, and I think that's a big reason why a lot of non-metal fans can immediately identify with and appreciate Rammstein's music. I mean, I have a lot of experience in the field. I played it in German class all the time, and I had people like, oh, this is actually not that bad, even though it's kind of heavy. Then right after that, Ich Will, another real iconic Rammstein song, with those futuristic sounding keyboards on this track. To me, I feel like there's a significant influence being brought in from European electro groups like Kraftwerk is the first that kind of comes to mind when I hear this. If you listen to their 1981 record Computer World, which is an absolute classic in the world of electronic music, this is one of those songs where I really hear that influence prominently in the keyboard sampling. Then Firefly is the next track. I mean, it's just one after another, after a fucking another on this album. Firefly is definitely the most high energy cut on the LP, which explains why it's so explosive live. And when I say explosive, I mean literally like Rammstein blow a lot of shit up. When people talk about industrial metal having almost like a mechanical sound to it, records like, Fear Factory's Demanufacture come to mind, I immediately think of this album, but I specifically think of this song because the combination of that super chunky riff and the production and the effects on top of it all make it sound like a bunch of heavy machinery is barreling towards you at an absurdly high speed, which is probably why this is also like the ultimate speeding song. Of course, Drive Safely, but this is it. It doesn't get much better than Firefly. This is also a great time to briefly mention how amazing Mutter is as a gym album. I mean, look at the fucking murderer's row of tracks that just whiz by that are outstanding for some running or some iron pumping. I actually decided on doing an episode of Essential Metal on this album while I was jamming this record at the gym. But moving on to track 6, the title track, it is quite literally one of my very favorite songs of all time. That guitar melody in the chorus, it's somehow triumphant and powerful, yet despairing and mournful. It just sends my emotions every which way. This is one of my favorite songs to just sit and listen to when I feel like just thinking about my life in an overly dramatic or histrionic way. Kind of just sit, listen to this song, and just kind of watch the montage go by. And the keyboards play their role here perfectly. The guitars are pretty spare and minimal, so the keyboards fill in those dramatic gaps and give the track this huge, full sound, yet they're not ever overbearing, and you don't even always notice them prominently as the track's going by. And the beautiful thing about this album is that even though the first 6 tracks are as stacked as like the New York Yankees in 1998 were, it doesn't really peter out. They maintain it. I love the track Spieluhr. That squeaky, dissonant main riff is somehow catchy as hell and almost like weirdly danceable. And then you got the chorus with Till's trade-offs with what sound like electronic children's voices, and that interplay makes this the second best chorus on the whole record next to the title track. The climax of Spieluhr, though, is actually when those bells from the intro re-enter around like the 3-minute mark to add this almost like dreamy touch. It's just gorgeous and fits really well amongst the heaviness that's going on around it. Much like what we discussed with Mein Herz brennt earlier, Rammstein are able to invoke a sense of true beauty in the midst of their assaulting metal sound. And I'll also shout out the song Svitter as another highlight. This track is like Firefly in that it's just full speed ahead the entire fucking time. This is one of those tracks that just sends my blood pressure through the fucking roof. I mean, all things considered, when you look at the entire track list, the only song that doesn't really belong is the closer, Nebel. But by then, it almost feels like an epilogue. You've already been hit with a solid batch of 10 tracks, so by then, that track's not really damaging the album so much. Mutter's just a fucking fun listen. In the grand scheme of the Rammstein catalog, it's also their artistic peak. I think it says a lot that recently Team Rock ran this article where they are counting down the 10 worst Rammstein songs, and guess which album was not represented? I'll actually link that article down in the description if you guys are curious to read it. But yeah, Mutter certainly has me till hammering harder than any of the other Rammstein records, which, if you don't know what that is, fucking Google that. You're missing out. But I really hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on this great record. But most importantly, if you haven't listened to Mutter in its entirety, go do that. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music, and I'll see you guys soon.